A tropical low in the Coral Sea, heavy rain across parts of Queensland, flooding in central Queensland, and the question everyone is asking, what happens next? I've been examining the latest data from the Bureau of Meteorology, comparing the major forecast models and monitoring conditions right across Queensland. There's a fair bit to cover, so let's get straight into it. Right now, conditions across Queensland are about as varied as you can get. Up in far north Queensland, around Mackay-Bowen, it's been absolutely stinking. 34 degrees at 10 in the morning with 85% humidity. Overnight minimums not dropping below 28. That extreme heat with no relief, even at night. Compare that to the southeast. Brisbane and the Gold Coast have been dealing with heat and humidity, but without the rainfall that usually comes with it. Dry conditions, uncomfortably humid, and plenty of folks asking why the wet season hasn't delivered yet. Central Queensland-S copping it differently. Alpha saw heavy rain this arvo. Cats and dogs, as they say. Blackwater-S dealing with significant flooding. The images from the flood cameras show just how much water is moving through those systems. This isn't T-minor flooding, this is substantial. That contrast tells us exactly what is happening meteorologically. We've got a tropical low sitting in the Coral Sea, warm humid air being drawn across the state, but the rainfall distribution is patchy. Some areas are getting absolutely bucketed on. Others are bone dry despite the humidity. Let me show you what the models are indicating, because there's reasonable agreement on the broad pattern, but some important differences in the details. The Access model that the Bureau's Australian Community Climate and Earth System Simulator has been tracking this tropical low for several days. It formed in the Coral Sea early this week and has been sitting roughly 300 kilometres off the North Queensland coast. The system hasn't intensified to tropical cyclone strength. Current central pressure is around 1,005 hectopascals. That's a weak to moderate low pressure system. What matters isn't the intensity at the centre. What matters is the moisture this system is feeding into Queensland. The low is acting like a pump, drawing tropical air from the north and east, then pushing it onshore across different parts of the state depending on its exact position and the steering currents. The GFS model, the Global Forecast System, shows this low drifting south over the weekend, not quickly, maybe 50 to 80 kilometres per day. That slow movement is critical. Fast-moving systems bring rain and move on. Slow systems sit and deliver rainfall over the same areas repeatedly. The European model, ECMWF, agrees on the southward drift, but has the low positioned slightly further east. That difference of 50 to 100 kilometres might not sound like much, but it changes which parts of the coast cop the heaviest falls. Here's where it gets interesting with the model spread. By Monday, the Access and GFS models have the low weakening as it moves into cooler waters south of about 25 degrees latitude. The European model keeps it better organised for longer. That difference matters for rainfall totals across southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. I am leaning toward the Access and GFS solution. Sea surface temperatures drop off quickly south of the Capricorn coast. Once this low moves into waters below 26 degrees Celsius, it loses its primary energy source. The tropical moisture tap gets turned down, but before that happens, there is significant rainfall to come. Let me break this down by region because the impacts vary considerably depending on where you are. Far north Queensland from Cairns to Cooktown. You're already dealing with oppressive conditions, the heat, the humidity, the lack of any cooling relief overnight. This system isn't going to change that immediately. What it does bring is increased shower and thunderstorm activity Saturday afternoon through Sunday. Rainfall totals for far north Queensland, 20 to 50 millimetres widely, with isolated areas copping up to 100 millimetres where thunderstorms develop. That useful rain if you in the tablelands or western areas that have been dry. For coastal areas already saturated, it adds to runoff concerns. The key for far north Queensland is this. The main low stays well to your south. You are on the northern periphery. Showers, storms, humid conditions continue, but this isn't a major rain event for you. By Tuesday, as the low drifts south and weakens, conditions actually improve. Less humid air works in from the east. Temperatures drop a couple of degrees. Not dramatic relief, but noticeable. North Queensland from Townsville through to Mackay. This is where the action concentrates. The low tracking south parallel to your coast means persistent onshore winds, continuous moisture feed, repeated bands of rain and storms. Townsville-S already seen flash flooding this afternoon, random heavy cells moving through. That pattern continues through the weekend. Saturday, scattered showers and storms. Sunday, more organised rain areas develop as the low moves closer. Monday, The heaviest falls as the system is almost directly offshore. Rainfall totals for North Queensland coastal areas 100 to 200 millimetres widely from Saturday through Monday. Some locations, particularly elevated areas and where thunderstorms train over the same spots repeatedly, could see 250 to 300 millimetres that see significant rainfall. Streams and creeks will respond quickly. Low-lying areas prone to flooding need attention. We're not talking minor nuisance flooding. This has the potential for moderate impacts across the Herbert, Burdekin and Pioneer catchments. Inland North Queensland, out through Charters Towers, Hewenden, that country, you will see scattered showers and storms, but totals much lower, 20 to 60 millimetres most likely. Enough to be useful, not enough to cause problems. Central Queensland, and this is where current flooding complicates the picture. Blackwater, Emerald, that entire central interior system has water moving through it right now. The No-Goa River, Comet River, Mackenzie River systems are all elevated. The good news, if you can call it that, the heaviest rain from this system tracks along the coast. The low stays offshore. That means Central Queensland, inland areas aren't getting another massive dumping on top of what S already there. Rainfall for Central Queensland inland 10 to 30 millimetres Saturday through Monday. Scattered storms could deliver isolated heavier falls, but the widespread heavy rain stays to the east. Central Queensland coast from Mackay to Rockhampton, you are in a similar situation to North Queensland. Onshore winds, moisture feed, repeated rain bands. 75 to 150 millimetres likely from Saturday through Monday, with coastal showers persisting into Tuesday. The Capricorn coast needs to watch this carefully. If the low tracks slightly closer to shore than currently modelled, rainfall totals increase. If it stays further east, totals come down. That uncertainty is around 50 millimetres in either direction, not enough to change the overall message, but enough to matter for local impacts. Wide Bay and Burnett, Bundaberg through to Gympie. Sunday into Monday is when your rainfall increases. The low will be offshore to your north, but moisture wraps around the southern side. Rain develops Sunday afternoon, continues Monday, eases Tuesday morning. Totals for Wide Bay, 40 to 80 millimetres most likely. Isolated storms could push that higher, but this isn't a major rain event for you, more a case of persistent showers and periods of moderate rain. Southeast Queensland, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. I know you've been waiting for decent rain. The dams need it, the gardens need it, but I need to be straight with you about what this system delivers. The low weakens as it moves south. By the time its influence reaches southeast Queensland properly on Monday and Tuesday, the tropical moisture feed is diminishing. Sea surface temperatures offshore from Brisbane are around 24 to 25 degrees. That S marginal for maintaining tropical characteristics. What you'll see, showers develop Monday, more frequent Monday night into Tuesday. Rainfall totals 15 to 40 millimetres for most areas. Some locations might see 50 to 60 millimetres, but widespread heavy rain is unlikely. That is useful. It is not drought-breaking. It won to fill the dams significantly, but it's better than nothing, and for gardens and lawns, it helps. The humidity drops by Wednesday as drier air moves in behind the system. That S when southeast Queensland actually gets relief. Cooler, less humid, more comfortable conditions. Now let's just talk about the secondary aspects of this system, because rain isn't the only concern. Winds along the Queensland coast, particularly North Queensland and Central Queensland coasts. Sustained easterly to southeasterly winds 25 to 35 kilometres per hour, gusts 45 to 60 kilometres per hour Saturday through Monday. That's not extreme, but it's enough to make seas rough. Boating conditions deteriorate. Anyone heading offshore needs to reconsider plans. Reef trips, fishing charters, recreational boating. Saturday through Monday aren't the days for it. Surf along exposed beaches builds to 2 to 3 metres. That brings increased risk of beach erosion, particularly during high tides. Dangerous swimming conditions, rips will be active. If you're re-heading to the beach, stay between the flags and frankly consider whether you need to be in the water at all. The combination of king tides and onshore winds means coastal flooding is possible in low-lying areas, not major coastal inundation, but areas that regularly experience tidal flooding during king tides need to be aware. This happens along parts of the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast and around Cairns. If your property is vulnerable, keep an eye on tide times and move vehicles or equipment as needed. Fire weather actually improves across most of Queensland this weekend. The increased cloud cover, higher humidity, rainfall in many areas all reduce fire danger. That's one positive from this pattern. For those in Western Queensland where the rain doesn't reach, Fire danger remains elevated. Grass is cured. Fuel loads are there. And if you get gusty winds ahead of any storms, conditions can deteriorate quickly. Standard precautions apply. No fires on total fire ban days. Be aware of your surroundings. Let me talk about what happens after Monday, because that S, when the pattern shifts more significantly, the tropical low weakens and dissipates Tuesday into Wednesday as it moves into the Tasman Sea. What S left is a weak surface trough and some upper level energy. That's enough to keep showers going along the coast, but the organised rainfall ends. By Thursday, a ridge of high pressure builds across Queensland from the southwest. That ridge brings a couple of days of settled conditions. Clear skies, light winds, lower humidity. It's a brief window of pleasant weather. Temperatures during this settled period, overnight minimums drop noticeably. Brisbane might see 14 to 16 degrees Thursday and Friday mornings. That is well below the overnight minimums you've been dealing with lately. Up in Cairns, minimums drop to around 22 degrees. Still warm, but less oppressive than the 28 degree minimums you've been copping. Daytime maximums come down as well with the lower humidity. Brisbane Thursday and Friday, 26 to 28 degrees, comfortable. Cairns, 31 to 32 degrees. Townsville, 30 to 31 degrees. It is still warm, but it is manageable. That settled period doesn't last. The long-range models show another tropical low possibly developing in the Coral Sea late next week. It is too early for specifics, but the overall pattern suggests we're in an active phase. Monsoon trough is positioned across northern Australia. Coral Sea is warm. Atmospheric conditions favour tropical development. What does that mean practically? Don T assumed the wet season is over after this system clears. We're likely to see repeated systems through late January into February. That is typical for this time of year when the monsoon is active, but it is worth keeping in mind for planning purposes. Right, let's get into practical considerations, because understanding the forecast is one thing. Knowing what to do with that information is another. For those in North Queensland and Central Queensland coast expecting the heaviest rainfall, check your property drainage now. Clear gutters. Make sure downpipes aren't blocked. If you've got low-lying areas that pond water, consider where that water goes with 100 to 200 millimetres of rain. Farmers with stock in low-lying paddocks, move them to higher ground before Saturday. Creeks and rivers will rise. It's easier to move stock before the rain than during or after. You've done this before, you know the drill. Anyone in flood-prone areas, particularly Central Queensland where rivers are already elevated, have your emergency kit ready. If you're on a rural property and access could be cut, make sure you've got enough supplies. Food, water, medications, fuel for generators if you have them. The SES advice holds. If it's flooded, forget it. Never drive through floodwater. Doesn't matter if you've done it before. Doesn't matter if it looks shallow. Road surfaces can be washed away underneath. Water depth can change rapidly. It's not worth it. For coastal residents, secure loose items around the property. Patio furniture, trampolines, anything that strong winds could move. 40 to 60 kilometre per hour gusts aren't cyclone strength, but they are enough to send unsecured items into neighbours' yards or windows. If you're in southeast Queensland waiting for rain, this system brings some relief, but not a lot. Continue water-wise practices. The drier air midweek will stress gardens and lawns again if we don't get follow-up rain. Far north Queensland dealing with the extreme heat. Look after yourselves, check on elderly neighbours, make sure mates working outside are taking breaks, staying hydrated. This heat with high humidity is genuinely dangerous. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke are real risks. If you've got air conditioning, use it. This isn't the time to be tough. If you don't have air conditioning, find ways to stay cool. Wet towels, fans, cold showers, spend time in air-conditioned public spaces during the heat of the day. For those heading to the coast for the weekend, beach conditions are poor Saturday through Monday. Rough seas, strong currents, dangerous swimming. If you're determined to go to the beach, stay out of the water or only swim at patrolled beaches between the flags. Better yet, consider postponing until conditions improve midweek. Boaties, don't head offshore this weekend. Seas are going to be rough. Visibility will be reduced in rain. And if something goes wrong, conditions make rescue difficult. It's not worth the risk. There'll be better days for fishing or reef trips next week. For those moving house around the 19th or 20th in the Daintree, river crossings could be affected. The heaviest rain for far north Queensland is Saturday and Sunday. So by Monday and Tuesday, levels should be dropping unless there's been localised heavy falls. Monitor BOM river height data and have a backup plan if crossings are too high. Storm chasers heading to northern New South Wales or southern Queensland, Friday might deliver something, but the best activity is likely to be around the North Queensland coast, Saturday and Sunday, where moisture is strongest. That said, chasing in this pattern means dealing with poor visibility, heavy rain, and potentially dangerous lightning. Know your limits. Let me address something I've noticed in how these tropical systems are being discussed more broadly. There is a tendency to either dramatically overstate the risks or completely dismiss them. Neither approach is helpful. This tropical low isn't Cyclone Yasi. It's not even going to reach tropical cyclone strength, but that doesn't mean it S nothing. 100 to 200 millimetres of rain in North Queensland over 3 days causes flooding. It affects roads, properties, livelihoods. Dismissing it as just a tropical low misses the point. Equally, this isn't the end of the world. Queensland deals with tropical lows every wet season. You've seen worse, you will see worse again. Treating this like an unprecedented catastrophe doesn't match reality. The appropriate response is measured preparation, know what is coming, take sensible precautions, monitor official warnings from the Bureau of Meteorology and your local emergency services, then get on with things. Many of you remember the 2011 floods, Brisbane underwater, Toowoomba flash flooding. That was a different setup, a different scale, but the lessons apply. Official warnings matter, local knowledge matters, taking precautions early matters. This system won to reach those levels, but it's worth taking seriously, particularly for North Queensland and Central Queensland where impacts are most significant. Let me touch on model uncertainty because it's important to understand where confidence is high and where it's lower. High confidence, tropical low exists, moves south along the Queensland coast, weakens by Tuesday. High confidence, North Queensland and Central Queensland coast receive significant rainfall Saturday through Monday. Moderate confidence, rainfall totals in the 100 to 200 millimetre range for coastal North Queensland. Lower confidence, exact track of the low, which affects where the heaviest rain falls. A 50-kilometre shift east or west changes local totals significantly. Lower confidence, where the southeast Queensland receives 30 millimetres or 60 millimetres. The system weakens as it moves south, making rainfall forecasts less reliable. Low confidence, what develops next week. Long-range models show potential for another system, but that's 7 to 10 days out. Too early for details. What does that mean for you? The broad pattern is clear. A tropical low tracking south, rain for the coast, weakening as it goes. The specific details, exactly where the heaviest falls occur, that has uncertainty. Monitor updated forecasts from the Bureau. Official warnings will be refined as the system evolves. For those interested in the meteorological mechanics, let me briefly explain why this system behaves the way it does. Tropical lows form when you have warm sea surface temperatures, low wind shear, and atmospheric instability. The Coral Sea ticks all those boxes this time of year. Water temperatures are 28 to 29 degrees. The monsoon trough provides the initial area of low pressure. Once formed, these systems are steered by the broader atmospheric flow. Currently, there is a ridge of high pressure south of Queensland in the Tasman Sea. That ridge acts like a wall, blocking the low from moving east into open ocean. Instead, the low drifts south along the coast. As it moves south, two things happen. First, sea surface temperatures drop. South of Bundaberg, water temperatures are only 24 to 25 degrees. That S below the threshold for maintaining tropical characteristics. The low S energy source weakens. Second, increasing wind shear disrupts the system S structure. The subtropical jet stream is positioned south of Queensland. As the low moves into that environment, upper level winds tear apart the circulation. That's why we see weakening Tuesday and Wednesday. It is not random. It is the system moving into an environment that no longer supports it. The rainfall distribution reflects the low SA position and structure. Heaviest rain occurs where onshore winds are strongest and where atmospheric lift is greatest. That S, typically east and south of the low S centre. As the low moves south, that heavy rain shield moves with it. Right, let's summarise what you need to know because I've covered a lot of ground. This weekend and early next week, a tropical low tracks south along the Queensland coast. North Queensland and Central Queensland coast cop significant rainfall, 100 to 200 millimetres widely. Flash flooding possible, rough seas, strong winds, not a cyclone but not nothing either. Southeast Queensland, some rain Monday and Tuesday, but totals modest. 15 to 40 millimetres most likely. Humidity drops midweek. More comfortable conditions return. Far north Queensland, continued heat and humidity through the weekend. Showers and storms. Conditions improve slightly early next week. Central Queensland inland, current flooding continues to ease. New rainfall from this system stays mostly coastal. Not a major concern for already flooded areas. Practical actions: secure property, move stock if needed. Don T, drive through floodwater, avoid the ocean this weekend. Check on vulnerable people in the heat. Monitor official warnings. The Bureau of Meteorology will issue updated forecasts and warnings as this system evolves. Pay attention to those official sources. Your local SES or emergency services will provide specific advice if needed. After this system clears midweek, we get a brief settled period. Enjoy it while it lasts. The broader pattern suggests more tropical activity, likely through the rest of January and into February. That's typical for an active wet season. It is not cause for alarm, but it does mean staying weather aware. Don T assumed things are quiet just because one system has passed. For those asking why Brisbane-SE has been so dry this summer, it is the positioning of systems. The tropical activity has been focused further north, or systems have tracked too far east. The moisture hasn't made it south in significant quantities. When the pattern shifts to bring lows further south, or when east coast lows develop in the Tasman, southeast Queensland sees better rainfall, we re-knot in that pattern currently. If you're really keen on the technical details, I'd encourage you to check the Bureau of Meteorology website. They've got excellent analysis of the synoptic setup, model guidance, and forecast reasoning. Understanding why forecasts are made helps you interpret updates more effectively. The comments and questions I see tell me you are engaged with this. You're re-watching conditions, you're re-asking good questions. That's exactly the right approach. Weather affects everyone, but it particularly affects those with livestock, property, businesses dependent on conditions. Being informed isn't about panic, it's about making good decisions. Moving stock before the rain is a good decision. Securing loose items is a good decision. Postponing unnecessary travel through flood-prone areas is a good decision. I'll be monitoring this system as it develops and will update if there are significant changes to the forecast. For now, the message is clear. North Queensland, prepare for significant rain. Central Queensland coast, similar story. Southeast Queensland, you'll get some rain, but not a lot. Far North Queensland, the heat continues a bit longer. Stay safe, take sensible precautions, and we'll see how this system